Explorations in Healing. This is our second video that we're doing on redefining healing. And I'm Raven and this is Amy. So we're going to take a moment to start off. We're going to do a short visualization. So go ahead and close your eyes and take a couple full deep breaths into your belly. And then cast back in your mind to a time when you felt really good, when you had a sense of incredible well-being, of incredible wellness, a time, an actual experience of feeling really great. Seeing if you can visualize that event, that little period of time, and really breathe your way into it until you feel it. Really feel that in your being. What wellness, what being healthy, what feeling really good feels like, actually feels like to you. Good, and now just take a minute to describe to yourself what you were feeling at that time. So to create a conceptualization, a description of what that was like for you. Fantastic. And when you're ready, you can take another full deep breath and open your eyes. So the point of that visualization is to start us on a little journey here today of really getting that there's a difference between our experience and our description or our conceptualization of that experience. And a lot of times we have a beautiful experience inside of ourselves of wellness, of well-being. In my case, I saw myself standing on a mountaintop after taking a hike that I had done, and when I started describing it to myself, it was this feeling of the body had been slightly pushed. It felt really opened up. My senses were really extended. I could feel the energy around me, so on. Okay, keep describing things. And what happens a lot of times is that we hook to the description, to the concept of something that happened in the past, and we use that as a definition of that's what wellness is. That's what it feels like for me to feel good. This is the way it is. Okay? And then we spend all of our time trying to recreate something that happened in the past, some state that we had, instead of being with our experience right now. And really dropping in now to what it feels like to move into or to be in wellness and wholeness in this moment. And so we start grasping after something that's an idea and chasing it around instead of actually being with the experience.
And this is so limiting, both when working on wellness for ourselves and then when we're supporting others in their quest for wellness, because we get an idea of what wellness will be. This beloved of mine will be cancer-free and that will be well. I will feel well when I look like I did at 18. And our feeling of wellness then has nothing to do with what's true for us. It's what this concept is. And these concepts are formed not only by us, so we have our own our own little definition of wellness, as Raven said, often really tied to an event or a time of our lives. But we are also inundated all the time with what other people tell us about wellness. That a healthy person looks like this or is able to do that. In physical form, in emotional form, this affects all areas of wellness. Same thing with relationships, relational wellness. As soon as we begin to describe to ourselves what wellness is in any area, we're closing the door to a really, really small area that we can look through, and we're always judging our experience, and we can never, ever win that way. We will never, ever feel exactly like we did. Raven's never going to feel exactly like he did on that mountaintop ever again. In our visualization, I just went to 2 days ago when I sat out with my friend in her backyard, and we were just sitting in the sunshine. We have spring here now, and we were glorying in the sunshine and drinking water and talking. I'm never going to have that conversation with her again. I'm never going to be that person again. I've already changed. It's been 2 days. But if I immediately, when I started to describe to myself that, I had the list. Okay, for me to feel that way again, it needs to be springtime and sunshine. I need to be talking to her. We both have been through really drastic transitions in our life, so maybe I have to go through transition and be on the other side of it in order to feel wellness. And this is so limiting, because wellness is actually an energy, in my experience. It's something we open to. And if we only open to it if this is a certain set of criteria are met, then we're closing off. And when we're supporting others, whether we do so physically as practitioners or we do so emotionally as support systems, if we hold any of those really stringent ideas about what wellness is, we're also closing our ability to be channels for healing. I love to use the word healing to remind myself of this, because healing comes from the Gaelic word meaning to be whole, and most of us know that. But even though we still keep our awareness open to wholeness, a lot of times when we're talking about healing, what we're actually talking about is curing. And that is to get rid of a situation or to get back to a certain situation. I will weigh this amount. I won't wear glasses. So for me, that's about curing. And curing is fixing something. And I love to remind myself, too, this is my favorite little wordplay, that the word cure is also the word we use to describe what we do to meat in order to make it last forever. So bacon is cured and ham is cured. Put in a bunch of salt to make it stay in one form forever. So I sometimes picture my little body. When my mind is wanting me to be at a certain state, I picture myself pickled, cured. I'm not going to ever be in that situation again, but my mind will try to pull me back. So you can use that little wordplay if you like. As soon as we set an intent, this is a real tricky bit. As soon as we set an intent to heal, that intent then becomes the window through which we view our experience. And it's so difficult to constantly mitigate against that, and that window becoming ever and ever smaller, especially those of you who go to doctors and get a lot of tests like I do. Our entire experience can be defined by a specific set of numbers. And what we want to do this month is really start to deconstruct all of the ways that any ideas of wellness are playing in our actual experience, are having an effect, whether we're working on our own healing or being channels for one another, for the planet. There's a lot of media discussions about different people and what their wellness is. All of that has an effect on us. What your parents modeled to you and taught you about wellness has an effect on you. And we can't mitigate against all of it, but what we want to do is be conscious of it. So this month we're really going to play. We're going to use our own lives as they're occurring as examples to experience wellness, and then pick apart where we actually took ourselves out of the flow of wellness because what our ideas of wellness were telling us. So Raven is our guinea pig, and he was so generous to have an experience this past week that we can use as a model. He's going to tell you about that, and use this as a model for your own deconstructing work in this month.
Yeah, so it was quite perfect, actually. I got a cold this last week, and pretty good one. And I haven't had one in a while. And one of the things, there were a few things that really came up for me because we're working with healing and we're working with this whole idea right now. And so it's been a great play with Amy as to work with the different pieces as they've come up. One of the things is that I really felt like it brought up for me something that's an old piece where I really feel like I'm not supposed to get sick. And that came about for a number of reasons. One of them was the type of energy work and the tradition that I was involved in. That it was like if you reached a certain level of stuff, then you should be able to cure yourself. You should be able to heal yourself of anything that's arising. And if you can't heal yourself of something that's arising, then you're failing. Then you're failing at your path, at your expression of spirit in the world. And so that came around for me. And the other thing is this: I tell myself all the time that I hardly ever get sick. And so it makes it, it's a big deal because, wow, I haven't been sick. I heard myself say this to Amy, well, I haven't had a cold in 2 years. I hardly ever get sick. I just don't do that, and I can fight these viruses really fast. Like whenever I have a virus, I get rid of it really quickly. Well, one of the things that I did to do that is there's a particular supplement I take called Wellness Formula. And when I would feel myself getting a virus, I would take a whole bunch of that. So I would really pound it, and that would cure, in a lot of ways, the movement of the virus in my system. Well, over the last period of time, I developed a real sensitivity to garlic over the last couple of years, and the Wellness Formula is full of garlic. And it really upsets my stomach and really makes it difficult to take very much of it, and so it threw a little hole in my whole belief system of how quickly I can get rid of the virus because of how I was doing that. And one of the other things that happened with the virus is that, and it just didn't make any sense to me, but the virus got into my back. So the cold virus got into my back, and it triggered a major episode with my lower back, and lower back pain and my back almost spasming. And being in a lot of pain for several days now around that, and just this feeling sense of how does a cold get into your back? It doesn't make any sense, but that's actually the feeling of what happened with it, which brought up the stuff about my back, because I feel like over time, I've had chronic back pain for years and years, clear since I was a teenager. And that's come and gone, and I have this idea of this is what I need to do. Like if the back starts to hurt, then these are the steps that I need to take to keep the back from spasming. And I've got a bunch of fear about what happens if the back it actually does come into a place of spasm. Like if it were to actually spasm, then, and because of that, I'm like, oh, I got to do these things. I got to do these things to try and keep it from happening. That's been a little rundown of my last week in this body, this beautiful body.
Thank you for sharing. And thanks for providing us with fodder. So I'm going to go back through Raven's telling of that experience, and we can see just a handful of the different concepts of wellness that were actually impeding his experience of allowing wellness to flow. There are lots and lots, and we'll just go through a few. So first, he mentioned that he felt like a failure, that years ago he would have felt like a failure because he had been schooled and had practiced this energy work that said, you're in charge of your own energy, and if something happens, if a virus comes in, something invades your form, then you've dropped the ball somehow. To me, this plays on almost all of us. So he comes from a shamanic tradition where that's put in shamanic words, but it's no different from other kinds of New Age theories that you got cancer because you held on to your emotions. All of that stuff is out there everywhere. And to me, it's just an updated way to talk about what people in the Middle Ages talked about as sin, right? That you did something against God and now you have this condition. You messed up, basically. That's so prevalent, and we could beat ourselves up and you could just feel the drain of energy that could be focused on wellness. It is just lost because we tell ourselves we're failures, because we've somehow had the experience of life. And if we live in these bodies long enough, they will get viruses. That's part of the deal. And our attachment to not having any viruses, like Raven said, he just told himself he was someone who didn't get sick. So he then became attached to being a specific person. And maybe he did, maybe that was his experience for several years. In this body, at this moment in time, that's not true. So in that case, when we do that, a lot of us actually can have really rather serious conditions, but take quite a long time to even realize that we have them, because we're telling ourselves, that doesn't happen to me. And what we're doing, of course, is arguing with reality, which is not wellness in any form, takes us out of our experience. And another thing that Raven talked about was he knew for several years, a long time, he's been able to take this one supplement and it has helped. And now he was in the experience, he got the chance to decide, does the benefit of this substance on the virus, is it worth how it's making me feel? Because it was making him feel awful.
Yeah.
But the mind often says, oh, a virus is so bad, I have to get rid of it. Here's another thing, we have to get rid of this foreign body. So let me go through whatever, intestinal pains that I'm having in order to get rid of that. And it was wonderful the morning he said no. He woke up and said, I don't want to take that anymore. The virus is much more manageable than this other thing. But if he held tight to the idea that I have to stop this virus and get rid of it because I'm someone who gets better quickly, he would have put himself through so much more suffering.
I still put myself through some.
Yeah. On the road to wellness, we sometimes do that. And this was a great experience too, when he actually, it was an exact moment when he turned to me and said, I feel that a virus has just entered my back. And of course, we all know viruses have their own way of going. They live in certain parts of our body, and we don't hear about them entering the back. So what we can do in that situation is say, I'm not experiencing this. The truth is, you are experiencing that, and just because no one in medical literature has written about it, just because it's not the way you've experienced anything in the past, doesn't mean that it's not happening. But there's another way we can clamp down. And his experience with his back is really fascinating for me to watch, because he does get nervous around his back being immobile. But what I watched him do is make himself immobile because he's nervous about his back. And I watched myself do it around him too, because then I get nervous. Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And how many times do we all do that? Someone has a virus around us and we suddenly get nervous. Oh, I can't catch that virus. I have a big thing at work to do. I'm going on vacation. You can feel how we tense and tighten. And when we're in support of each other, this does no good at all. If someone comes for support to you, any of these places where you have preconceptions about what wellness is, you have a sense of responsibility about how wellness should go, how you should interact with wellness, we're closing down the amount of healing energy that can flow through us. So this is what we're going to play with this month. There's lots and lots of opportunity. Every single day you'll be able to take your experiences throughout the day. You don't need to have a virus and your back go out to do it. You can take your experiences throughout the day and see, what was my experience of healing flow? And then how did my description of it, my concepts of that, actually take me out of that experience?
Sorry. Still have a little tickle from that virus. Cool, so we're going to close up with a little bit of another little visualization here to take us into the week between, so you can work with this between now and the time that we do the call, when we do the conference call where we all come together and we'll discuss aspects of this together. So again, close your eyes, take a couple of full deep breaths. And bringing up in your mind's eye a recent time where you have experienced some imbalance in your system, some sense of sickness, some place of not feeling healthy. Just take your time to work through that whole experience. So to view it from when you first started to not feel so good, in whatever way that was. This could be physical or emotional or anything that happened to you where you felt out of balance. Just notice from the moment you went out of balance until you felt good again, until you felt healthy again, what that process was like. How did you respond to your experience? What did you tell yourself about the experience you were having? What meanings did you assign to it? What stories did you create about who you are or what was happening to you? Good, and just kind of noting those things as places for you to explore over the next little bit of time, to contemplate, maybe journal about, just feel into and write about how you defined yourself and how you defined your sickness and how you defined your healing. What were you thinking about while all that was happening? And rather than just ending there, let's go back to that first visualization that we did today, remembering a time when you felt really good. You felt fantastic, had a sense of well-being and wholeness. It's a beautiful moment for you. Taking 3 deep breaths into that moment, making it a real experience. Breathing that sense of wholeness into your body. Beautiful. Ready, you can open your eyes.
So play with that experience this week and any others that arise. Really go back through, I see it kind of as excavating. Go back through all the layers of that experience of lack of wellness or imbalance, and then do exactly what Raven just led you through when you start to feel it, because how quickly we can feel unwell just by thinking about a time when we experienced it. Then play with coming back to experiencing wellness. And do the same exact thing in reverse. If you open to the experience of wellness, you can create that. What we're going to talk about on the call, we're going to do all of this deconstruction of your experience, of our experiences, what stood in the way of us, between us and wellness. But what we're going to find is that there's always healing that's happening. So we use Raven's example, go a little bit deeper to figure out what the real avenues of healing, where healing was being flown to in his being. But first, in order to really tap into that, we've got to do this deconstruction work. So play with that this week, and we will talk to you on the 16th, Sunday, June 16th, and we'll start to really work together to keep reminding ourselves that these narrow definitions of wellness don't serve anyone. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining us. It is our prayer that all beings continue to return again and again to the infinite source of wellness and healing. May all beings be happy, May all beings be free. Namaste.
Namaste.